I tell you what, I wasn't really excited for Marvel until the WandaVision trailer came out.
Dude.
Because really the only content we've gotten from Marvel, I mean, other than I was excited kind of for the announced movies, but they're still pretty far out. The only really movie stuff we've gotten from Marvel has been for Black Widow. Mm-hmm. And I think, as we've talked about before on this show, I couldn't care at all about Black Widow.
I don't either.
The film.
Unfortunately, I think that a lot of the advertisements and just more, teasers and screen grabs and all of that kind of stuff was going to start dropping with Black Widow. I think that was going to kind of kick off phase 4.
Kind of give us some more content.
But unfortunately, we didn't get Black Widow, and even though that in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing, we didn't get the kickoff for this next step that Marvel is going to take. We don't really know where they're going to go from here.
We just know we know 6 or 7 movie release dates.
Yeah.
But outside of the big announcements they made, I think it was last year, just kind of announcing all the films and shows they've got coming out, there hasn't been any sort of visual cue or really any sort of media content to kind of let us know what we're going to get. I don't even think there's been anything for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I don't think we've gotten anything for that yet either.
I don't think we've seen anything. We have a few of the title art for some of the movies.
Right.
We don't really have much of anything else. Mm-hmm. Some of them at the moment aren't even named. We have Untitled Spider-Man, Untitled Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Right.
We don't even know what they're going to be called.
Mm-hmm.
What have you heard anything about the Eternals? Because I'm very excited about this.
No, I haven't heard much about it. I don't even know much about the lore of the Eternals. I know it's kind of a bigger, bigger strain of stories in the Marvel universe.
So listen, I don't know anything about the Eternals story, or I've been introduced to the characters that make up the Eternals. Don't really know much about them. Some of the characters have kind of been teased in Guardians of the Galaxy,
right,
and I believe in Doctor Strange maybe.
Okay,
but I think the Eternals movie has potential to be the best Marvel movie yet.
Oh wow, okay. I just read the premise.
Listen to this quote by the director, Chloe Zhao, which gets me so excited.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
She says, "I have such a deep, strong manga roots. I brought some of that into Eternals, and I look forward to pushing more of that marriage of East and West. How much further and bigger can we go after Endgame? Because I'm not making this just as a director. I'm making this film as a fan."
Dude.
Could we get a movie that is bigger in scale, both, the world building and the characters,
as
bigger than Endgame?
As this combination of Eastern and Western influence style,
with a whole bunch of characters that we don't know or
we
care
just have
about.
no
We've
idea
never
who
seen
they
before.
are.
They have not been introduced.
Listen, Marvel has proved us time and again that they can take the most obscure, unknown, uncared about characters, stories, and make them awesome, right? They did it with Guardians.
Yeah.
They did it with Ant-Man. They've done it many of times with characters you just wouldn't expect to have that big of an impact.
And they took characters like those from Guardians. They took Ant-Man, and they made them just as important in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Captain America.
Just as interesting, even sometimes more interesting.
Oh, absolutely.
I have far more interest in Guardians of the Galaxy than I ever probably did in and I loved the Captain America movies, but I found Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man even, and Doctor Strange, far more compelling, because I think, and honestly, maybe this is something they tapped into, the kind of unknown of those characters I think is probably what makes them so interesting to see and interesting to kind of
and
learn more about.
It gives them so much freedom with how they want to do it, because the only people who are going to know or really care if they get things wrong is, the diehard Marvel comic fans. But here's the thing. This is what, I mean, listen to that quote from Chloe Zhao. She's saying, I'm not just making the film as a director, I'm making the film as a fan. She's going to make what we want to see. Now, granted, Kevin Feige has always chosen directors who are perfect fits for the story, who are perfect fits for the character. So I never would have doubted that Chloe Zhao would be a good fit for whatever story he chose. But the fact that she's coming at it from that angle of she wants to give the people what they want to see, because she's trying to make what she wants. She's trying to make, as a fan, where she hopes the Marvel Cinematic Universe would go. And that's so exciting. Because, I don't think that after all that we've kind of been through with the MCU, I don't think people are as excited for Phase 4 and Phase 5. And partially it's because we don't really know what to expect. We've expended all of the characters that everybody knows and loves. We've gone through Iron Man and Captain America and the Hulk and all of those, and
we've
started to get these newer characters, and like thinking back on it now, it seems like we've known the Guardians of the Galaxy forever. It seems like Ant-Man has always been part of the Avengers. It seems like Black Panther has always been there, and like these characters that they have found a way to integrate into their story. But the difference is now that's all they have.
Right. I want to talk about a little bit about what excites me about what Chloe Zhao said. But before we go too deep, I want to kind of just do a quick rundown.
Yeah. Let's go through it.
As far as Phase 4 goes, we've got Black Widow coming in 2021. We've got Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings also in 2021. We have Marvel's Eternals also in 2021. We have the untitled Spider-Man Far From Home sequel also in 2021. There are 4 Marvel movies coming out from between May and December of next year. That is a lot of Marvel content.
They've got basically they wrapped up the beginning of summer, the beginning of the blockbuster season with a May and a July release. And then they end the year with November and December. Marvel's going to take over.
It's going to be a big 2021. That's going to be big.
It's going to be a lot to keep up with, but maybe with so many new stories being told, that's not such a bad thing to have them back to back, have it kind of fresh in our minds.
I agree.
Especially depending on how they're going to try to tie them all together.
Then coming up in 2022, still part of Phase 4, we've got Thor: Love and Thunder coming out in February of 2022. Very excited about that one. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then we've got Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness coming in March of 2022. Again, super stacked release dates. I'm not opposed to that, though. I think that's kind of a good idea. And you want to know the coolest thing about the new Doctor Strange movie?
Okay.
It's going to be directed by Sam Raimi.
Really? No way.
Let me check. Let me fact check myself real quick, because some of these pages can get kind of old. Because originally, the original director Scott Derrickson had they wanted him to come back and do a second movie. And he kind of said he wanted to, and we'll get to this in a little, because this is part of what excites me about what Chloe Zhao said. He said he wanted to kind of get horror, like gothic horror, into the Marvel universe, and then I think early this year he said he wasn't going to...
coming 2022. We can touch on it.
We can touch on that. So Derrickson announced that he wouldn't be directing the film due to creative differences, but he would remain as an executive producer. A month later, Sam Raimi entered negotiations to take over as director. And then Raimi confirmed he would be directing in April. So... well, I want to touch on that as well, but I want to finish this rundown because
we have a lot to go on.
There's a few few big things that really excite me that I want to unpack. We've also got a second Black Panther movie coming out in 2022. I'm assuming it's not. They're not really sure if it's going to be Phase 4 yet, because they're probably not sure if they're going to even make the movie.
Yeah, it's
with the untimely passing of legendary actor Chadwick Boseman.
It's up in the air, and I don't think they should rush it.
I don't either.
They need to take their time, and if they're going to do it, they have to make sure they do it right. If they are uncertain about anything with Black Panther 2, they need to scrap it.
Yeah, May 6th, 2022 is that release date. So it's just over a year and a half. If just over a year and a half isn't enough time, fans will be okay with a delay.
Oh, absolutely.
Dude, if it's something they really love, fans don't care how long. They might be upset when things get delayed or things don't take a long time to come out. But the satisfaction of seeing it release is far more influential, I think, than delaying something or having to push it back. You know, people complain about release dates and how long things take, but they really don't care.
Yeah.
They really don't care that much about how long it takes. Moving on from that, we've got an untitled Captain Marvel sequel, which I'm so excited about.
I'm sure you are.
I'm not. Anyways, moving on. You got a couple more movies that they're coming out with.
Yeah,
I don't have
so
them
I have Guardians Volume 3. These are unscheduled as far as releases, but we know they're coming.
They're coming eventually.
Guardians Volume 3, an untitled Ant-Man and the Wasp sequel, a Fantastic Four, which has been done and redone. Hopefully they can get it right.
Done poorly
Sooner
and
or
redone even more,
sooner or later.
even poorlier.
Man, Fantastic Four could be so good if someone would just do it the right way.
Seriously, yeah, totally.
Marvel, if you're listening,
Marvel.
they're not.
No.
Please make a good Fantastic Four movie. They won't.
No. Okay. And then as far as TV shows go, we've got WandaVision coming in December.
Yeah.
Very excited. Only 6 episodes. I'm curious to see how long they'll be, because I don't know if you watched. The Mandalorian on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
It was also a pretty short season. People were expecting hour-long episodes. Some episodes were 28 minutes. Some were 33. Some were. I think there was one 50-minute episode.
Yeah.
But most of them were 25 to 40 minutes long, and people were like, "What in the hell is this all about?"
Well, and now they're kind of banking on season 2,
right,
to kind of keep everything together for them.
Right. So interesting that only 6 episodes are coming out. And then we've also got Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming out in 2021. We've got a Loki series coming out in 2021. Interesting about that is, he's supposed to be dead. So
spoiler alert.
It's been long enough.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think, could be really interesting.
I'm very excited for that one.
Because of, if for no other reason, because of the way that the Captain America storyline is playing out.
Right. And just because
in the comics, Winter Soldier becomes Captain America.
Right.
In the movies, now we know Falcon becomes Captain America.
Right. At least he gets the
shield,
the torch passed
down.
So to speak.
Should be.
And also, I'm just curious, because of the chemistry the two characters have in the films themselves, the actors whose names I will tell you, Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan, who was just recently in he was in The Devil All the Time.
I don't want to talk about it.
Anyway, but those two actors have great chemistry. The interactions they have in the films they've been in where they're together are great, and just that alone, the fact that when I've seen them in movies together, I go, that was funny.
And now bringing it to the small screen.
That was interesting, right? Bringing it to the small screen, giving them like 6 hours of their own show to kind of develop that friendship and just kind of give them their own things independently of bigger characters like Iron Man and Captain America. It's very, very exciting for me. I think that's... Oh, we've also got... There's going to be a Hawkeye series coming out in 2022. There's going to be a She-Hulk series, I think they just recently announced.
I've heard that.
I'll be interested to see how that is. Couple other things. We won't delve too deep into them because they're so far away. I want to circle back to what excites me about Chloe Zhao. And I was kind of nervous about this when Scott Derrickson was when it was announced he was no longer going to direct the new Doctor Strange movie, because Scott Derrickson got his start in horror. Like his first few films are horror films. I believe they are. I want to say one of them is Sinister, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. Oh no, yeah. So Exorcism of Emily Rose, Sinister, Deliver Us from Evil, and then he directed Doctor Strange in 2016. So his first three kind of bigger, more well-known films were these. One, Sinister, a very, very well-regarded horror film. So when he came out and said, I want to bring horror into the Marvel Universe, I was sold.
Yeah.
I was excited, and I was ready. And then they said he wasn't going to direct anymore due to creative differences, and I got a little worried.
Well, especially with a character like Doctor Strange.
Oh, yeah.
You could do so
There's
many
so
cool
much
things with him.
Yeah, because he's like he's basically a wizard.
Yeah.
And he does all this magic. Like, to have,
you could make that basically, well, it's Marvel, so within reason, but you could make it as dark as you wanted to with his character.
For sure.
Easily. Yeah.
So when Chloe Zhao comes out and says she wants to bring she wants to combine Eastern and Western film influences, she's a huge manga fan, right?
Yeah.
That, because we know her movie is being made, there's not been any creative differences or whatever. That gets me excited because when Scott Derrickson was out, I thought, man, maybe Marvel's not really letting him take the reign on this. Maybe they're kind of limiting him too much. But then I saw they got Sam Raimi, and Sam Raimi is even more so a horror guy than Scott Derrickson is. Sam Raimi has done Evil Dead, one of the most iconic film series of all time. He's also, he's done. He produced
Drag
the
Me
Evil
to
Dead.
Hell in
Drag
2009.
Drag Me to Hell.
And then he followed that up with Oz the Great and Powerful.
Drag Me to Hell, bro, is very scary.
Really? I've never seen it.
I watched it. I watched it when I went to. I studied abroad, for a year, and when I first got there, it was one of the first movies I watched, and like the next day, I got so sick, like I had thrown up, and I was like, am I about to get dragged to hell?
What did they do to me?
Am I getting dragged to hell now?
Sam, what did you do?
So the fact that they got Sam Raimi on to Doctor Strange makes me think maybe they still want to lean into this horror idea. They just needed someone who they had a little more trust in, who had a little more.
Well, he also has experience with Marvel movies. He did the original Spider-Man.
Exactly. So you got him doing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
In the past. So that's a great trust. That's a great point of trust right there. Mm-hmm. And he's also well more established than Scott Derrickson is, which is another point of trust.
Spider-Man was
the greatest,
maybe the only like real successful Marvel movie up until Iron Man.
I think so.
Right?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
And I mean, granted, that's only 6 years, but
it would be.
And then they tried so many more times. Sony tried so many more times to make Spider-Man and
magic.
It just didn't work.
Yeah, you can't make what Sam Raimi. You can't do better than Sam Raimi.
No,
I mean, except maybe Spider-Man 3.
That original Spider-Man, was that tied to Marvel or was that tied to Sony?
It was Sony. It was fully Sony. There were no the Marvel.
So I guess I can't blame Sony entirely
for
the bad sequels, but
yeah. You can't.
We should forget about those. We should also try to forget about dancing goth
Spider-Man and Listen, I'm not gonna lie. For all of its faults, Spider-Man 3 is still way better than the two Amazing Spider-Man movies that Sony released.
Oh yeah, and
not even a little bit, by a lot. And that doesn't speak so much to how good Spider-Man 3 is. It speaks to how bad the Amazing Spider-Man movies are.
You.
What's that?
Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
Is the best portrayal of Venom we've ever seen.
Yes, it is. And it's not a good portrayal.
And that's sad.
It's really sad. It's very, very sad. Sony, get your shit together. Sorry about that. Anyway, so it really excites me hearing a director in Phase 4 saying that, and seeing that despite the fact that Scott Derrickson left for creative differences, they got a guy like Sam Raimi, who is basically a horror guru, to come on and direct that movie. Money. That I think some of a lot of the decisions they've been making for Phase 4 so far, outside of Black Widow, because I just really don't understand the point.
I feel like Black Widow is only there to set up this next phase.
And it could. But here's the thing, she's, spoiler alert, she's dead.
I don't think you gave enough time.
But dude, if they somehow bring her back, that will make it worse. Like I already
No, if they
already
bring her
don't see
back-
the point.
If they bring her back, it ruins Endgame.
Yes, it does. It completely ruins what they set up and what they do in Endgame.
And because also it
And
means,
I guess in Infinity War.
it means that the stakes will never be high in a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
we need them to be. We
We
need
need
to be
them
able
to be
to
high.
take the stakes seriously.
Because
Up until Endgame, we haven't really.
right.
There had been no reason
Infinity
for us
War
to think.
and Endgame were the movies that said there are real stakes here.
And
People
leading
can
up
die.
to that, we were expecting it with Civil War.
Mhm.
We were expecting something like that,
with Civil War, and we didn't really.
and we didn't get
No.
it. And then we get to Infinity War, we get to Endgame, and we're like, okay, maybe they're finally taking this seriously.
Right. They're finally doing
If they
something.
mess it up with Black Widow,
Yeah.
it's going to completely ruin the work that they've done up to this
Right.
point.
Because
No one can deny the success of the MCU. No one can deny how well they've built the characters and how well they've made people love their characters.
and it would still be successful if they pulled
Absolutely.
something like that. People would still go watch the movies for sure.
I would.
I would. I will. I'm gonna see Black Widow. We're gonna see Black Widow.
But I need a reason.
But
I need to know that.
there are real stakes.
Yes, but I need
Yeah.
to know that they respect the audience enough to not be pulling stuff like that.
Exactly.
So I'm worried. I'm worried that they're gonna mess it up with Black Widow, but I'm hopeful that they're
Yeah.
just using it to kind of set up Phase 4,
Mhm.
and that we can kind of take it in a good direction.
Just kind of give us a good one-off story that her character deserved.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure. They just did it too late, and that's Marvel's fault. But yeah, I think you're right. If it's this kind of one-off idea, just its own contained film.
Mm-hmm.
No sequels, no prequels. She's not actually alive still. Just a good story about her family, her upbringing, just to kind of wrap up her character. Then it's perfect. That's the best they could have done. I still don't see the point,
Yeah.
but it's the best they could have done with what they were going to do, regardless of what we think. Anyway. So moving on from that, I mean, dude, other than that, with Eternals, with the new Spider-Man, which the MCU Spider-Man movies have been really good.
Yeah.
I still prefer the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans, at least 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Tom Holland is.
I don't think you can really beat the first Spider-Man, the original.
You can't beat the first two with like the portrayal of Doc Ock and Green Goblin.
Oh yeah.
Two of the best villain portrayals in superhero films across the board, and there are so many superhero movies out there. And the fact that I think Spider-Man came out in 2001 or 2002, and then Spider-Man 2 came out in 2004.
Yeah.
The fact that
I think you're right.
it's been that long, and those two villains still hold up as two of the best.
Dude, Spider-Man has some of the best villains.
He does.
In all of comic books. Not just the MCU films, not just the
Just
Avengers.
comic books in general. And I think one of the reasons for that is because with Spider-Man there are so many stakes, because he's just a kid.
Yeah.
In most of the comics he's a high schooler or in college, and he's just a 16 to 19-year-old trying to like keep all these people safe, and there's these actual like legitimately bad people who are trying to not just ruin everyone else's life, but ruin his life, because either they know who he is or they know he's trying to stop them. There's so many more, because he's that younger guy and he has power, sure, but like he's a kid. He's just a kid. You know why Spider-Man wears a mask? Have I told you about this?
No.
You know why Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, you know why they have him wear a mask, a full mask? It's to hide his fear.
Yeah.
It's to hide his fear from his villains, because he doesn't want them to know that he's some 17-year-old kid with these weird abilities, because he knows if they saw his face, they would see the fear.
Yeah.
That's why Spider-Man wears a mask. One of the coolest character notes you could ever. It's so simple too. And
it's human.
It's human. It's very human. It's very humanizing for an otherwise unhuman, supernatural person.
Well, and think about the villains that he's facing too. Of course, he'd show fear with even just the ones that we've seen in film.
Right.
Dr. Octopus, who's just truly evil. We have Sandman,
one of the best villains.
Sandman.
So good.
I would love to see Sandman redone, because seen well, and given the respect that he was given in those original Spider-Man movies.
Right.
But also, like, Green Goblin in the original was actually kind of scary.
Oh, yeah.
So,
And that's what's great about Sam Raimi.
They have so many cool things they would do. Now,
There's-
if only they would do Venom right, and I'm going to stay bitter about that until we get a good one.
That's what I love about Sam Raimi, man, is with the original Spider-Man movies, because of his kind of initial direction in horror, there are so many little elements of horror in the original Spider-Man series.
Yeah.
That make it so unique compared to other Marvel movies that we get nowadays.
Yeah.
Which is what, again, not to circle back, but what excites me about Doctor Strange is the fact that he's going to be directing it.
Well, and
it's a good sign. It's a good sign.
I have to add this in. I don't think Doctor Strange gets the respect that it deserves. The
I don't
first
either.
movie.
Well,
as a character,
I'm not going to lie. Initially, I wasn't a huge fan of Doctor Strange.
really.
When I first watched the movie, I was like, "Yeah, it's okay. It's kind of cartoony." But that's one of the few Marvel movies that I watch, and every time I watch it, I gain more respect for it, and I enjoy it more every single time.
So I was kind of the opposite. At first, I didn't watch it until it had been out for 2 years, maybe 2 or 3 years.
You watched it like a year ago, then a year or two ago.
Yes, I think I watched it 2 years ago.
Okay.
What year did it first come out? 2017.
I think 2016.
2016.
Yes.
So
yeah,
I believe I watched it in 2018.
Okay.
But I avoided it in theaters. I didn't think it looked good for the same reasons that at first you didn't like it. I thought it looked cartoonish. I didn't think that it would fit into the Marvel movies that we had seen.
Right.
And when I watched it, it immediately became my favorite Marvel movie.
Yeah,
I loved it. I loved the character, and as
Yes.
he was built into the Avengers, I loved his role in the Avengers.
Oh, yeah.
Just all of it. And
his role in the Avengers is so
and
impactful.
it is so underrated.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange as a character and the film that he was given,
100%.
it was kind of overshadowed by the bigger names. I feel like Doctor Strange, the first Doctor Strange could come out with like Phase 4, and it would kind of fit in. Obviously, he played a huge role in the Avengers,
in the original phases.
but I'm just saying that kind of character and that kind of film is one that I would be happy to see upcoming. Of course, I know what it is now, but this is the kind of thing that I'm hopeful for, is that we can see some more Doctor Stranges, so to speak.
Me too.
More, some new Guardians of the Galaxy.
Just some more lore in the Doctor Strange world, because I think that's one of the more intriguing, kind of less tapped universes within the Marvel universe itself.
Sure.
Interesting note I want to bring up. So, the third Spider-Man movie is going to be, again, directed by John Watts, and I don't know if you know this about John Watts, but he's a Colorado boy.
Really?
He's from Fountain.
Okay, wow.
He directed a movie, I believe it came out in 2013, called Cop Car with Kevin Bacon. And it's about these two kids that steal a cop car. I believe it's on Netflix. I
think I've heard of it.
Great movie, one of my favorite indie movies. But he shot it in Colorado Springs.
Oh yeah,
in Fountain and in Colorado. Like there are scenes where like Kevin Bacon's character drives up to a stoplight, and it's like it's SH-87 in Fountain Boulevard, and you're like, I've been there before. Like that is 15 minutes away from my house.
Yeah.
He also filmed some scenes up in Northgate, like in Flying Horse, where my aunt lives.
Oh yeah.
Like there are shots where some people are driving down a road, and you see these kind of cement blocks on the side of the road. I could take you to the exact place they shot that. Not a huge note or anything. I love that there's a Colorado guy in there. Not just a Colorado guy, a Fountain, Colorado guy. That's basically Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right there.
If it's not, then it should be.
It should be. I'm very excited for Spider-Man.
Okay,
Not just because of John Watts, but because
I want to hear your thoughts on Thor: Love and Thunder, because I know how much you loved.
You didn't like Ragnarok at all, did you?
Ragnarok, I didn't. And because I didn't like Ragnarok, I have pretty low expectations for Love and Thunder.
Well, here's the thing. Taika Waititi is returning, and he was the reason that Thor Ragnarok was so well received. It was because of him.
Mm-hmm.
And because he's returning to direct and co-write the script, I believe, and since he's getting basically 5 years to work on the story, which is a lot of time usually for a Marvel franchise, and it's because Ragnarok butted up so close to the Infinity series, the Infinity Saga.
Mm-hmm. And branching into a fourth movie is not something they typically want to do.
It's not something they've really done yet. Yeah.
And from my understanding, and this is what gives me hope for it, is that they're picking up after the events of Endgame,
right?
And kind of saying like where Thor went from there. It's like his journey trying to find.
Well, also
his new purpose after Endgame.
Also, if you remember the end of Endgame, he left with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So there's a good chance he's going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 as well. So my thought is that Love and Thunder will probably take place after the events of Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I could be wrong because of the release date, but I don't know. The release dates aren't really chronological.
We don't really know.
We don't know
when
much.
Guardians 3 will come out.
Right.
It looks like, from what I'm reading here, it looks like it's going to be part of Phase 4.
Okay.
So maybe
that's a good sign.
Maybe shortly after
Could
Love
be.
and Thunder, because next year is already 2-pack.
It could be
2021. They cannot fit.
It could be the end of
Guardians
2022 when it comes out.
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah. But I am very excited for Love and Thunder purely because Taika Waititi is returning, and I also like where Thor's character is based on the events of Endgame,
mm-hmm.
right? I like where he's going, and I want to know where that is. I want to know, I want to find out what the next logical path for him is, because he talks about it's time for me to stop being a leader and do what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And if that means he's just going to be a wandering Norse god doing some crazy things and going to cool planets, I'm all on board for that.
Yeah.
And I'm just excited to see where they take the character, because I like so much where it ended with the end of the Infinity Saga, with him just going, I don't know what I'm going to do.
I could see him going on sort of a Guardians Volume 2 type journey where he's just like all over at different planets, and obviously it'd be a different storyline, but
instead of trying to find his father, he's trying to find his purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think it has a lot of potential.
I do as well.
We'll see where it goes.
I'm still surprised you can't get behind Ragnarok.
So I guess we should do a little bit of a disclaimer that this was not obviously the original take.
Yeah, the conclusion to this video.
We lost a little bit of audio, so we're redoing it today.
Yeah, the last 10 minutes or so are going to be us in these clothes as opposed to what you originally saw us in. And
there might be some continuity errors in the audio, but we're going to really do our best.
There's going to be some weird daylight. But it's fine. It's good.
Sure. So what I wanted to start with today is the problem that I had with Thor Ragnarok. Okay,
I hate listening to you talk about this because I love this movie.
I know, but the reasons why I don't like Thor Ragnarok are some of the same reasons that you had kind of brought up of why you were skeptical of Doctor Strange at first.
Okay, I remember this.
But with Doctor Strange, I think it worked. I think that Thor Ragnarok was a bit cartoonish, a bit childish, maybe a little bit too much like forced humor.
Right.
And they just strayed so far from what the Thor of the past was. Mm-hmm. And I get that they kind of had to, because the Thor as a character wasn't quite as popular with the fans.
Right.
And the movies were losing a little bit of steam. So I get why they made those changes. Yeah. I just didn't think that it worked.
The Thor of the past just never really worked in general, I think. I think people just at the offset weren't fans of it. They just didn't like the way the character was going or the decisions he was making, and I think they wanted to really just completely turn it on its head and bring a little bit more, I don't know, gravitas to the character, so to speak. Yeah, just something a little different.
I guess I didn't think that it really felt like Thor Ragnarok was just a complete 180 from the direction they were heading with Thor's character. And
you weren't a fan of that?
I wasn't a fan of it.
That's interesting, man, because I loved Thor Ragnarok. I thought it was super well paced, very funny. it felt like a film that had a like, with Marvel movies you get so caught up in them like trying to fit the MCU kind of criteria, so to speak. And to me, Ragnarok's one of the only one that has that very unique feel to it. Like it's its own movie. Which I really appreciated.
I agree with you, but I think maybe for me it's because I would rather they try that with films like Guardians of the Galaxy, with characters like Doctor Strange. Don't do it with a character that's already established. Exactly, because
that makes sense.
It seems like they had already kind of decided what they wanted Thor to be, but when they realized that it wasn't quite as popular,
right,
they just decided to change it altogether. Now, listen, Thor Ragnarok was necessary to move along the story.
Oh yeah, it was a huge story.
But I think that they could have told that same story with a similar tone that they had in the past movies.
Man, I think you're really going to come around to Thor Ragnarok just as similarly as I did with Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
I think another watch or two, and I think it'll click for you.
It might. Well, and maybe after seeing how Thor and his character are used in Avengers,
right?
Maybe it'll make a little bit more sense to me because I'll see what they were trying to accomplish in the first place.
Right.
But then again, we could have avoided having to see Fat Thor in the Avengers. Having to see Thor.
What's wrong with Fat Thor?
Listen. Without Thor Ragnarok, we don't have to have Thor calling people noobs on Xbox.
Thor would have been fat in Endgame, regardless of if we had Ragnarok. That was not Taika Waititi's choice to make him fat.
Well, I just wish
the hell out of here.
I wish it would have been avoided.
I liked Fat Thor. I thought it was funny.
That's the problem. The problem is that you thought it was funny.
All the Lebowski jokes that they made, those were great.
Okay, you're right. That
some of the stuff they did was good with that.
I suppose that's a silver line.
It was very ambitious, and I get why people didn't like it's kind of a risky move doing Fat Thor, and kind of making his character go that way. But I think it worked. I think it worked for a lot of people. Definitely didn't work for a lot of people because pretty much everyone I've talked to about it's about a 50-50 split. But I think they were okay with taking that risk, and that's one thing I appreciate about most of the MCU is, for the most part so far, they haven't been really afraid to take big risks with characters at the expense of losing half the fandom, because they know if they lose half the fandom, it's going to be replaced 2 movie cycles from then.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I'm not saying Thor Ragnarok was not successful, because generally speaking, everybody loved it. I'm in the minority here.
You are. You're very much in the you're in a very, very, very small minority.
A couple things, though.
The minority is tiny.
With that being said, they can make a big change with something like Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Also knowing that they have Avengers Endgame to bank on.
Right.
Fairly soon.
Yeah. They have.
That's kind of their saving grace.
Like they have Infinity War and then Endgame coming out back to back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. But I think based off of what we've seen, and granted it's very limited, I think Thor Love and Thunder is going to be a lot closer to Thor Ragnarok than it was to Dark World.
Oh yeah, for sure. Mainly because they got Taika Waititi to co-write and direct again.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of path they take.
He's definitely one of the characters I'm more interested in seeing kind of where he goes.
Yeah.
Obviously I can't wait for the Guardians movie, but we don't even know when that's coming out yet, and we've talked about that a little bit. I think what started this whole conversation and why we actually wanted to record this was WandaVision, which we haven't really touched on yet.
No, and I'm excited for WandaVision. I think that, first of all, it might almost replace the Black Widow movie as the work that kind of kicks off Phase 4. Now,
I agree.
Especially now that Black Widow has been pushed back a little ways.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, WandaVision looks just so unique. It's going to be completely different from anything we've ever seen Marvel do.
It looks like such a head trip, which Marvel doesn't really delve into really. I mean, the closest they've really come is Doctor Strange, and that's just because he's kind of a wizard.
It fits the character.
But they haven't really gotten into like psychological drama or horror, and this kind of looks like just a real mind piece of a show.
And so I don't want to go too far again, kind of back to Doctor Strange, but from what I've seen, Elizabeth Olsen is casted in Doctor Strange, and she's casted in WandaVision. So I think that the TV show might be more important to the MCU than we think it's gonna be, just based off of initial looks. But also, like, they with characters like Scarlet Witch and like with Vision,
right?
You kind of have to find new ways to explore their characters.
And
giving
for sure.
them kind of this platform could be really interesting to kind of find out more about characters that we didn't really get to know throughout the films.
Well, and what was great about the trailer too is it didn't really tell us much. It told us that they're in some reality where they're like a Brady Bunch family in the 50s.
Even then, we don't really know what kind of reality it is.
But
the trailer kind of goes back and forth between their life and them on TV.
The trailer kind of makes you question, like, because
it doesn't draw real clear lines there,
right? Because Vision's obviously dead. He's been dead, and he didn't come back in Endgame. He's gone.
They confirm that in the trailer for this movie.
One of the characters, he says, "Why are you acting like this?" She goes, "Because you're dead." Just a kind of a random moment that just kind of, I think, helps cue you into the idea that what we're going to see is going to be really, really weird and different, which for Marvel, like we talked about kind of fitting the Marvel grain. For Marvel, that's a great thing for them to do, to branch out and try new things, because that's one of the things they're probably going to have to do to keep audiences kind of invested, because they've already had the Infinity War. Thanos is already dead. You can't bring him back. And that's like one of the biggest bad guys in the entire Marvel universe, period. Not just the cinematic universe, but just Marvel in general. Yeah. Thanos is like one of the guys. And I think something we didn't talk about earlier, I think Fantastic Four is going to tie into what the next big bad event is going to be, because in the Fantastic Four universe is the Silver Surfer. And the Silver Surfer is an otherworldly being who serves some planet destroyer or something. I think that might be one way they could make a new, kind of tie the Avengers back in again, is with something like that.
I think we're expecting eventually another X-Men.
Yes.
Potentially some sort of Deadpool crossover as well.
Oh, that's right, because Marvel owns Deadpool now, don't they?
Oh, wow. Now it's gonna be they have to be careful with how they do that, because they could easily ruin the characters from the X-Men universe if they try too hard.
That's true.
With the Avengers.
We already have really good X-Men characters.
Yeah, but it could give us a really cool, look into whoever the next bad guy is going to be, how they're going to build the upcoming Marvel world. I did want to go back though. Something that really excites me with WandaVision is that Vision's character is finally going to get the love that he deserves.
Yes, he's kind of been get his own show.
I think it's kind of hard to it's kind of easy to forget how important he has been since the very beginning. So because Vision was Jarvis.
Right.
He has been around since the very first since Iron Man.
So he's been around the entirety of the MCU.
He's been a key. And I think that Paul Bettany, the actor that plays Vision,
right.
I mean, he was a voice actor to start playing Jarvis. Then he finally gets to play Vision, but he's Vision. He's not himself. Right. This trailer actually shows
Paul Bettany as
Vision,
like
in his human form,
as if he were human.
I'm excited for that, because I feel like Paul Bettany as an actor, as well as just Vision as a character in the MCU, like, they deserve that kind of respect. They deserve that kind of spotlight, even if it's going to be something short-lived, like just a few episodes on a TV show. It's about time that they kind of get what they deserve. And,
I agree.
And they can kind of be shown off in that way, because he's a super interesting character, but unfortunately we don't really get to...
You just don't get that time.
We don't get to have the time with him that we would want.
Right. And now we do. We get 6 episodes of just him and Wanda, i.e. Scarlet Witch.
It's exciting, dude.
It's really exciting. It's the show, it's the trailer that kicked off this whole conversation that's gone way over long. I love how we say we're gonna post our shorter stuff to YouTube. This is over an hour.
The shorter
long.
stuff becomes the longest stuff that we've done.
Well, you know what? There's a lot to unpack with Marvel,
right?
And there always.
But
is.
it's fun. This started with us just being like, "Hey, we should break down the WandaVision trailer." That's how it started.
Yeah, and
it could have easily been a 10-minute video, and we just started talking, and it doesn't.
And then you get here, and we're like, we should talk about everything that Marvel's doing. Like let's just talk about Phase 4 and all the other TV shows.
Well, and even that at first seemed like an easy task. We're like, we'll just go over the list of what's coming out
and do a breakdown,
and then we start to dive in so deep into every single one.
It's just
Well,
you can't help it.
I'm excited for it though,
dude. Me too.
Yeah, I don't have
much else.
I don't have too much else to say.
One thing we can talk about, because everyone's talking about it, so why not jump on? It is gonna suck seeing Phase 4 without Chadwick Boseman around.
Agreed, dude. I don't think that we could have talked about Marvel without talking about Chadwick Boseman.
I mean, with how iconic Black Panther was for Phase, whenever I think it came out in Phase 2, end of Phase 2. I mean, it's like one of the highest grossing films ever. Not just a superhero movie.
Yeah.
Movies in general. I mean, it was a not just like a countrywide phenomenon. It was a worldwide phenomenon.
Yeah.
People around the world who'd never seen movies before saw Black Panther. Like that was millions of people's first movies. I mean, it was a huge deal. And even just beyond that, like Chadwick Boseman as a person, not just as an actor. I mean, I feel like he brought a lot of things to the table that maybe not necessarily other people didn't, but he kind of had. We talked about John David Washington kind of having that it factor that actors can get, that like when they're on screen, it doesn't matter what the role is or who they're portraying, how good or bad the script is, they always kind of bring another level with them in their performance, no matter what they're doing. And I think Chadwick Boseman in a lot of the movies I saw with him, I always kind of felt like that was there.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
it's going to be interesting to see what they decide to do.
I hope that they do right by him if they're going to move forward with another Black Panther movie.
I don't know how you do that though, right?
I mean, I don't either.
I don't even think they started filming from what I know.
Yeah. I think that he's going to, obviously he brought so much more than just Black Panther. Like he became a pop culture icon almost, and like his character Black Panther was so relatable to so many people.
Oh yeah.
And not only that, but like look at what he was doing off camera. He's fighting cancer. Nobody really knows about it.
Battling stomach cancer.
While he's filming the Avengers.
Well, he's filming action movies.
Yeah, he's filming action movies. He's also, doing all sorts of charity work and meeting with kids out on the side. Like he's really bringing Black Panther to the people and doing everything he can to really connect with the fans. And
he brought that energy before he even he was that person before Black Panther. Like that's just
absolutely. Yeah.
Like Black Panther kind of gave him that avenue to become that, that icon.
Yeah.
And kind of show the world this is the kind of this is the guy I am. This is what I do.
Yeah, exactly.
I put myself out there full tilt, no holding back, and I just go. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be hard to pay any proper respect. Like, there's no perfect way to memorialize someone like that, especially in a movie. It's so hard to do. The movie has a slated release date, I think, for 2023.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I wouldn't be surprised if they bump that back. I wouldn't be surprised either if they just cut it completely and tried to kind of revamp the story in another film, just because I don't know how you have him. I mean, they just can't have him in the movie to start. So I think there are plenty of options as kind of his, replacement, or to kind of move on with his character in this MCU. I'm just not sure how that's going to happen, and I don't think they're going to try and do it in a 2 hour and 15-minute long feature film.
Yeah, it's not something that you can rush.
Right.
But yeah, dude. Obviously Marvel was better because of him, but the world was better because of him. He's just a
Dude, did you ever watch
good guy.
Not to get super sidetracked, but did you ever watch 42?
Oh yeah.
Dude, I mean, I played baseball, so I knew I knew who Jackie Robinson was. Like, I knew what he did for history, and he was a pretty good baseball player too. But to actually see that story unfold, and to see a guy like Chadwick Boseman do it, I mean, that was kind of, I think, one of the first big movies that kind of put him in the spotlight. He also did he did another biopic called Get On Up about James Brown.
Yeah.
One of the best singers ever.
Yeah.
That was another example. I mean, I don't know. He just was able to just kind of become the people he wanted to recreate. It seemed almost easy. Like, acting never seemed hard to him. It seemed like his roles were just kind of, he was able to get in and go.
Yeah.
And I don't know that not a lot of actors have that kind of, that, like I said, that it factor. And I don't know.
Well, and the range that he showed too, because really being in the Avengers and being in Black Panther was just such a small body of work for him. It goes beyond that. Like, his skill set and his range were so much better than I think people even really give him credit for.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the problems with that too is he just wasn't in the game long enough.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think before 2010 I don't know that he was in, like, I don't know that he had a starring role or was in any big movies before, kind of later in or earlier in the 2010s. So, that, I think that notoriety kind of comes with time. He just didn't, and I think he had like the backlog, the catalog of movies and projects to kind of show he had that. But it just, it's kind of one of those hindsight things. You don't really recognize it until someone's gone or they stop doing something.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think we can wrap it up there.
Yeah, it's a good place
to go.
Good place to end.
Good place to end it. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. Marvel Cinematic Universe, thank you for entertaining us for so long. I was 11 years old when Iron Man came out. Now I'm 23 and we're getting ready for Phase 4.
No signs of stopping.
No signs of slowing down. Superhero fatigue is real, but Marvel
somehow they power through it,
and closes their eyes and just
they pretend it doesn't exist.
I don't get how they're doing it, man.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see after.
I guess we will
after these upcoming after WandaVision and Black Widow. We'll see if they can make it through.
I'm so excited for WandaVision. Black Widow.
We'll get through it.
We're gonna see it. All right, man. You want to wrap it?
Yeah. So, if you liked what you saw today, go ahead and check us out on Spotify for all of our long-form discussions. We're also on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher, really any of your favorite podcast platforms.
Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave us a like, comment. Let us know what you think about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Do you like where it's going? Do you hate where it's going? Do you hate listening to us? Should we are we good enough for you on video? Let us know. Let us know what changes we should make. We love any input. All right, guys. Peace.
Nice, dude. Good work. I think that was longer than what we missed out on the first time.
It was.
Okay.